so that's great. So it's going to be a lot quicker, just like the SRV one. So this is going to be a lot quicker. So forgive me if I whiz through slides, but just as a quick introduction, I'm in the Keswick Mountain Rescue team. Have been for I think 16 or whatever years it is, and we work a lot with helicopters and with call-outs and pilots and all sorts of things. We know sort of from the other side how to manage stuff, and so I'm just explaining to you from an agency perspective as well as a pilot, so that you've got that sort of understanding. Okay, well, what is it when I phone up 999? Who am I going through? Who am I going to talk to? And what do I need to say to make sure I get listened to quickly and go higher up on the flow chart that this very busy operator is having to manage? And so there's a few little sneaky little words you can add in there. And they go, oh, really? Did you say, yeah. And you go up a little bit, and so the helicopter diverts from the road traffic accident and comes towards you. You better make sure that is serious, though. But, and it's not, I know so-and-so. It's all about medical emergency, and it's all about triage. And they're doing triage from the control. And they're sort of deciding what resources to send to what incident that's occurring right now. And that's what I'm going to just talk briefly to you about today, because I've got Ed breathing down my neck. So yeah, which can be nasty. They're the new helicopters in the UK. I don't know if any of you know, but if you're expecting to see a big, lovely yellow one, you're not going to anymore. And I don't know, Prince William, I'm not sure if he has one of those, but anyway, he's private, I think. So these are the government ones. So the government, because they co-opted the Royal Air Force and the Coast Guards and everyone to deal with the search and rescue, and now it's gone private, and that's all privately done. So these are the helicopters. This is the bigger one of the helicopters, and there's a smaller one.
Where's the Great North Ambulance? North Air Ambulance?
North Air Ambulance, that's a private trust. So you get Great North Ambulance, North West Ambulance, then you've got North Ambulance, which is a yellow one, then you've got the Leeds one. They're all different colours, different resources, really. And they have different, all the pilots are absolutely brilliant. But for example, Northwest, they can't fly at night. They're not allowed to, they're part of their risk assessment is they're not allowed to do that. And so there's all sorts of resources for different sort of helicopters. So if you're thinking this exercise is going to go into a night or it's going to require a winch, then you'd need the big baby to come out. But quite often during the daytime, you have a Northwest ambulance coming out and a big one to say, do you need a hand? You know, the little one ferries people to the big one, all sorts of stuff. So let's not digress. But what it is that helicopter, or one of those will be the ones that are coming towards you, okay? If you call it, or the Northwest, or if you live in the South, the Southwest probably. But they'll be coming to you. And so it's just all about how to communicate with the call handlers, what to do in an incident, and how to manage an incident, and then how to post brief and learn from the incident. So here's a little, this is my team, and this is us in action with one of our own. This is Rick Livingston. He won't mind me saying that. And there's us, and there's the Great North Ambulance. And 10p for anybody that says the site. Yay! I'll have to pay later. And this is, yeah, we're carrying. Look, I'm carrying as well, look, at the back. So, very simple. And these guys, I mean, they're ex-military. Very good. I'll let it run. So, incidentally, just talking about that rescue is a really good, it's a very good way of describing the process, because Mountain Rescue is a volunteer organisation, and we get paged or we get message on our phone, and so it comes in. And so in this incident, it came in as pilot down, and that goes up because it's an air incident, so that actually normally gets triggered through a different system. But anyway, and a grid reference was given. And the grid reference, looking at it, it's like, okay, that's weird. We then scrambled into our base. So the mountain rescue team, the local knowledge was there as a resource, getting ready to come out. The air ambulance was en route because it was important. And they went straight to obviously where they were told to go. Yeah. And as local knowledge, we're like, well, that's not the same point, because if it's north wind, local knowledge, they're going to be flying on Wolf, and that's there. And that's totally the other end of the track. So these guys are given information and they'll act on it. And they're going to go straight there. If you've given the wrong information, they're going to the wrong place already. So as soon as you start introducing other agencies, local knowledge, then yes, you then start to get, divert. We get direct line to the helicopter, so we can say, no, you're going to the wrong place, go straight to this. And so there was, I think, a few minutes wasted. And if that was a time critical incident, very important lesson learned. So, get the information quite correct, just like Ed's journalism. It's, what, who, where, when, etc. It's exactly the same stuff. So an incident comes in, okay? And you could dial 999 or 911, depends, 112, whatever. In Europe, I think I don't know about Brexit now, they might not have to talk English. But at the moment, they have to be able to talk English, which is great for us, traveling around France, Switzerland and Italy and everything. So, and normally if you dial the emergency number in Europe, you'll get someone who can speak English, and the flow system, it doesn't go through ambulance and everything, it goes more up towards the helicopters and is a lot quicker. So again, this is a good one to know. If you dial the local people, then you get local knowledge, but you might not necessarily get the resource so quick. So it's better to come down rather than necessarily go up. But it doesn't really, if it's a good local team, they'll pull in the resource straight away anyway. And normally, if you say your remote location, fall from height, that is what will trigger you, bang, bang, and you'll go up. Because remote location, well, we can't get there by ambulance, because the issue is with the ambulance is they follow a different system. So an ambulance has to go to the postcode. That's why ambulance asks for postcode. You're like, what do you mean a postcode? I'm on a hill. And they're like, oh, well, so you say remote location, give it a grid reference. They're getting better at it. But they also have a system, because they've been burnt so many times in the urban environment, where they have to assess the scene. They've relied on people telling them what to do, and they've been burnt so many times that they have to get someone there, assess the scene, then require resources from the scene. Now, if that's an ambulance driving along up a dead-end road and they can't get to you, then they ask for the ambulance. You've wasted half an hour more. So you need to make sure you go through the right chain of command. And what you do in a mountain environment, and you've got an injury on a mountain, and you dial 999, who do you ask for? Hello, caller, which emergency service would you like? Well done. That's great. Everyone that didn't know, shut up. Oh, I don't know. He's injured. No. It's the police. The police have got their constitution is duty of care to look after all of us. So it's their job to make sure we're all right. They co-opt the mountain rescue to do their job for them and get people off the mountain or whatever to the roads or to hospitals, to safety. So it's the police's job. And it's actually, at the moment, the ambulance is getting much, much better. It's the police are way quicker with the resources. So they've got a FIM who's in charge of everything. He's looking at all the screens, he's listening to everything, and he's making a decision. And if you say paragliding incident, fall from height, remote location, he's all right, press the button, we want a helicopter there, call the mountain rescue, da-da-da, and it's done. And they're all on their way. All the resources are on their way, rather than, well, let's send an ambulance and, oh, we need a helicopter, and they're going that way. So that's one way of speeding things up. And it's you generally do talk to the call handler and you ask for the police. And then you say rescue, and it's the remote location is key, okay? Because they're expecting a grid reference. And probably better is and also description. So if you think that rescue teams are coming, these guys that know the area. So if you said, Clough Head or Mam Tor, or yeah, we're on it. As a paragliding. Oh, okay, they're there. They will assume that is the worst case. We've had that in Annecy. Oh, they always have an accident there, but they're not there. Yeah, but they always go there. And the helicopter's just sat there thinking, well, he's not here. So, well, no, because he's up there. So, oh, right. Oh, yeah. So you have to make sure that they know exactly where it is. But give it a grid reference or description, the number of injured, the nature of the injury. So fall from height is key. Age, medical history, events, time of incident, number of group, and the information details, informant details, and a meeting rendezvous point. So that's your chalet. You've got all sorts of acronyms to hand over, but what you want to be doing is giving that data. So get it ready, okay? It's not slowing this system down, okay? You'll think, why does he need the age? It's also they can fill in a flow. So if you've got someone ill at the age of 60 and someone ill at the age of 11, you're going to put, and you've got only one resource, who's it going to go to? It's all about that. And it's all about, well, there's certain flow charts at certain ages with certain recoveries. So it's all about that. So just answer the question, okay? It's not slowing the rescue down, because they've already pressed the buttons. It's already going on screens and people are seeing it and thinking, oh, crap a neck, they need, and it's already happening. And they're getting that data coming through as they move and travel. So just be patient, answer the questions and get that information across, okay? And what we use is Chalet, which is exactly the same. So if you want to try and think of an acronym or anything like that, then that's your one. So casualties, hazards to the group of rescuers, access, location, equipment needed or resources, and type. Okay, well, if they've got all that information, they're off. Okay, they're already off. This is a great card. I don't know if many of you had a card. Is it still being made, Ian? The card, the emergency card? No. Okay. All these ideas are going. So Matt Wilkes, who's a brilliant, Dr. Matt Wilkes, I should say. Fantastic guy, beautifully passionate, and he's out in Nepal at the moment, working as a doctor, doing his thing with his wife, and he wanted to get this card across for people, and it's really good. Clubs should have this. We've done it in our Cumbrian Touring Club. Has anyone got the gold card? Yeah, look at these lads, they get the gold cards out. It has more than one purpose. Lads. Exactly. So what we've done is you make a card like that, nice plastic card. You've got whatever data you want on there, and you have that on the back. So it just is a prompt, aid memoir. Crap, this has happened. Read that and answer the questions. They'll answer you anyway, and they'll get it sorted. Whether you're here, abroad, wherever, it doesn't matter. But I would suggest that card. Okay. So the conversation is, with mountain rescue teams, what will happen is we will then, when we get to base, we'll be getting everything ready. We know what's already coming in because the page has told us. And the people that know, so if it's a paraglide, I would go up to the control room and make sure everything's all right, which is what happened in that incident. And so, no, it's not there, it's there. And okay, tell the helicopter, da-da-da, and then off we go. So local knowledge, you might get a call from a team leader. So the informant is really good to make sure, don't just run up to a hill, get comms, yep, yeah, he's coming, and then run back down. Unless you're needed, stay there and stay in comms, because they might want to phone you. The helicopter can phone you. That's the only way we could get through to the helicopter in France, for example. The pilot was absolutely fine, just hanging in a tree. But they didn't take their radios. Their radio was down on the helicopter. And the only way you could talk to the pilot was on a phone. Yeah, sorry, what was that? Oh yeah, okay, So, all these communication resources should be used and utilised. So once you've called it, unless you're needed, stay in communication. Because what will probably happen is a team leader will call you and say, hi mate, we're on our way. You're going to see a whole load of red jackets coming up the hill. And can you just tell us what is da-da-da? And they'll get more detailed information. Everything's still moving towards you, but they just want more detailed information. And so that's, whilst I've been talking, I guess you've been reading that. So when you're talking on the phone, time and number in group is the same stuff, okay? Or when you're talking to a team member. Now, we have SARCAL, which is what pretty much everyone, even the fire brigade now, and the ambulance service are all signing up to it. And SARCOR was designed, well, some really clever people. And there's Mountain Rescue Map and all others, and pilots have made that. So thanks to Dave Biggs. But this is a networking tool that enables us to know exactly what's going on with every other agency. So even if we can see a helicopter or the wrong people going to the wrong place, it's on a list that the controller can read, that they can then talk to. So it's a fantastic resource. And they can do what's called SAR-lock, which locks onto your phone. And it says, well, he's there. He's phoning us. Is he with the casualty? Yeah, well, he's not where the phone is. And so they SAR-lock you. Things like that. So staying where you are, GPS phones, all that sort of stuff, brilliant.
Can they do that if you put the phone down?
Yeah.
If you hang up?
That's only home with a smartphone though.
Smartphones, yeah.
Does that rely on signal?
GPS
work with that?
Yeah, GPS sometimes works with that. They can lock it on. They can use any other system. So they can use any network. But they also have a triangulation system as well. So they can say, well, it's pinging this beacon and that beacon. And they'll tell us. And we'll say, well, in that case, he's definitely on the west side. So bang, we know exactly where you are. So there's all sorts of stuff that they can do. So if you witness an incident from the air, obviously, stay high and establish comms, give a brief location to others, and the nature and time of the landing, and give your assistance, okay? And the key is don't panic and rush down, all right? Because that's what's going to cause another accident. So observe the best access route, talk to the people. You don't have to stay there until the mountain rescue arrive or anything. But in a situation like this is India, this is called 360. Wonder why. You know, if anything happened there, you'd want to be, you know, if someone's in a tree, people were running up to them, then you want to be able to steer them in and stuff like that. So be of use. But if you're in danger, obviously keep away. But just establish a good, clean line of communication if you're in the air and you've observed something. So pilot's not moved, which is why we have a standard international distress signal, which is ball your glider up and say you're okay. Okay, if you land somewhere weird, ball it up, leave it on the ground, which obviously means you're clearly all right. You've walked to your glider, you've balled it up, and you've said you're fine. If you're not all right, leave it where it is, draped over a wall or whatever it is. And that should, in your peripheral vision as pilots, should be able to say, well, hang on, that glider, he hasn't moved. That glider stayed exactly where it is. That's normally what you'll say to yourself. And you think, that's odd. I'm expecting that to ball up and it hasn't. So you start flying towards them, getting a bit of height, keeping aware of your surroundings, and then call it on the radio, find a safe place to land, and then establish a rescue. Okay? Everyone all right with that? So that's what we're doing there. And I think, so if you've seen it from the ground, this is the other one. You're doing it the opposite way around. So you're giving the brief, you're telling the pilots what to do, where the incident is. But again, it's not panicking and it's not causing an accident by seeing one. And quite often that can happen. That sort of, oh crap, what's going on? You know, people landing, trying to help or whatever it is. So be careful and make sure you have a person to meet the rescue team, you have a good position on your phone, and the nature and the time of the incident, so you can just quickly brief them. And just make sure that rescue is done smoothly and effectively. There's no point running in to someone and then saying, oh crap, we need this, and running out again. Just think, right, slow down. What do we need? Is it time critical? What resources do we have to get on their way whilst we're going towards the help? Okay. So obviously we identify dangers. You secure your own gear because there's nothing worse than all your kit going flying away. And if you get to someone, first thing you do is get their glider down and take it off. I do that, but I'm only joking. I mean, you can unclip it, but if the a rescue team or a helicopter get there, they're going to cut it off. So just make sure you create a safe environment, glider down, and you stabilize the situation. We use an acronym called LAST, locate, access, stabilize, and transport, or treat. So that's what you're looking at, okay? And there's little tricks about arriving at the foot end and slowing yourself down just that few seconds before you get there to slow your breathing rate, calm yourself down and think, right, ABC, and go into your casualty care mode. So there you go, that's LAST. Transport and treat, you can use them both. But that's how we're thinking, okay? And on scene, again, it's we're not going to talk about first aid or anything, but stabilize. And I would say in a paragliding incident, get straight to the head, okay? Because it's a fall from height, so you're hoping for the best, you're planning for the worst, so you're straight to the head, and you're straight to the head and the shoulders. So you're stabilizing with your hands on the shoulders, with the helmet in the head, and you're talking to the guy, you're controlling an airway, you're doing A, B, and C straight away, and you've stabilized him from C-spine support. So everything's locked down. You're now line of communication to that guy who's confused or whatever it is, and you're the person. And in our environment, the guy that's at the head, that arrives at the head, stays at the head until he's in the chopper and gone. So that guy will only remember that guy's name. So I remember John, he helped me out, and because that all you want to see is one head. It's okay, mate. This is what they're going to pull that. Don't worry about it. It's that beautiful, calm. So you're just dropping the heart rate down, and reassurance is key, and just saying it's all right. Don't ever lie, but just be honest. So you do your systematic primary secondary survey, and then you note injuries. And another thing, people with pilots, they all pile in and get stuck in, and then oops, no one can go out and get stuff. If you're in a situation, have one person, until there's someone in control, establish someone who's in control. Someone stands back and says, okay, what do we need? So that you've got the first aiders administering first aid and saying, I need this, I need that. And the leader is whoever, it can be an instructor, a coach, or just a pilot that's a bit more experienced than others, controlling it, but not being drawn in to the coal face. They can't be. They've got to stand back, take a broader picture of what's going on. And that could be anyone. And the most impressive thing in a medical environment, emergency environment, is you could have doctors, surgeons, everyone, but they'll always bow down to the A&E nurse. If there's a nurse turns up, they're more experienced, way more practiced, and even a doctor will say, right, I'm here if you need me, but you just crack on. And they just go, woof, woof, primary survey, all done. And what do you think? Do you concur with that? Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, very good. And that's how it goes. But there'll always be someone in control, and you will always be in a position where no one is above decision making. So if you think, that wasn't quite safe, then you can always say as well, but there's always a leader and there's always someone dealing with it. And with this, if you do see something going on that's not quite right, don't be afraid to say. We're not in an environment where he's in charge, so he's getting the guy to bend and touch his toes. Think, well, that's not right. He's just fallen from, just suggest, and hopefully the guy will be sensible. Okay, so don't be afraid to say anything. We're in a sort of non-blame environment, and with us, we do a thing where we suggest. So if a first aider's forgotten something, we say, would you like us to give him some Booker's then? Oh, yes, good idea. And so it's not, negative, it's positive. And again, reassurance is so key. Get out of the elements. We're flying in good weather often, so out of the sun. And make sure you've got all that covered, okay? And keep them calm, lots of air, and keep the situation stable. So if they're halfway down a hillside, lock down that harness, get yourselves underneath the harness and keep them neutral or in decent alignment. Don't start moving them if you do not need to move them, okay? So that's just first aid. And we're not going to bother with all this, okay? Because this is a long lecture. Long. And we've got 2 minutes left.
5 minutes. Well, not 5, 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just want to get to Steve and the beacons. So I'm just going to tap wildly whilst I'm doing this, because I'm not going to come out of it. I could come out of it and go straight to the next one, couldn't I? Go ahead, Ian.
Part of my job is investigating accidents. So
Yeah.
while we're on this subject, I'm just chucking my 2 pence.
Brilliant, yes.
The first thing is we mentioned grid references there.
Yep.
Who in the room's got a smartphone? Excellent. Right. What I suggest you all do is download a free app, Devon Air Ambulance, or there are others which will actually give you, wherever you are, switch it on, tap the app, and it gives you a grid reference where you're standing. It's free, you know, and it's worth having. So if everybody does that, if all pilots have that, then Bob's your uncle. It gives you everything, lat long, everything. So there's nothing worse than standing with a casualty and watching a helicopter over there trying to find you. That's the first thing. The other thing is when you're actually dealing with a casualty, as Jockey mentioned, there's a few things you can do. I know this is a bit grim, but as an accident investigator, it's really handy if you could note what the weather is, if you could take pictures of everything. I mean, in my view, all pilots should carry a GoPro because they're really useful to the accident investigators afterwards. But seriously, take pictures and just make a note of who the witnesses are there, because it sometimes turns out that those people have got pictures or film or what have you.
Anyone that's seen it.
So we need to know. You don't have to do anything with them. We don't expect statements or whatever. We just know who was there, the weather things, and take any pictures. It's extremely useful.
And it's good for post-briefing, post-learning. Incidents do happen, but it's a question, learn from it. That's the key. Make other people safer as a result of it. That's the key.
Just one final thing is, when an accident has happened, please don't discuss it on social media, because this actually can be very distressing to friends and relatives and what have you. And unfortunately on social media, people do it at 3 o'clock in the morning and they say, I think he did this wrong and all that kind of stuff. And it can actually, the worst case can influence, court cases and claims and all this sort of stuff. So please refrain from commenting until a proper investigation has been done. Right, that's my... Thanks,
Ian. Okay, so when the helicopter's coming towards you, like that, I think, oh my God, that's loud. It looks like a bus. It's coming towards you. What do you think you should be doing? The first thing is getting all pilots down, okay? They won't come in. There's some guys will be okay with it. Well-versed people, they don't mind. We've had helicopter pilots said, I'm not going anywhere near that. And we're like, well, the pilots are half a mile away. Nope, it's still too close for me. You just don't know. So get every pilot down, okay? And it says a message. It says we're responsible. We know what we're doing. So in a club environment, get used to, one, if you see, brilliant day, everyone's in the air, and suddenly they're not, then obviously don't keep flying. Look for a cross put out on the official landing field by paragliders or whatever, improvising. And if people are big earing out of the sky, there's a reason. And if you don't know what that reason is, land and find out, okay? So you glide us away and make sure the helicopter won't come in if there's anything that's going to get blown and spun into props. So they'll just make sure everything's tight and stowed. You're on bags and you know they're coming. So make the incident group clearly visible. So it can often come in and think, well, which group is it? Where's the casualty? Everyone's wrapped around everybody. So make sure that's visible. Stay really still, head down. And those helicopters have a massive downwash. So they're going to spin stones, everything. So make sure your head's down and eyes covered. And they will, you can put an X on the ground, it's great. You can signal to them which one you are, etc., etc. But they'll choose their own landing, okay? They'll decide. They've got a very expensive helicopter, and they'll think, well, he's telling me to go there, but I ain't going there. It's too much of a slope, or whatever. So, they'll find somewhere close, okay? With the landing zone, I wouldn't worry about it. We don't need to worry about it too much, but it's got to be massive. Be aware of the slope. And be aware of lights. Now, don't ever shine, if it's going at night, don't ever shine a light. They have goggles, so they can deal with it. But, lights directly in the eyes isn't great. The best thing you could do is shine lights across and onto the scene or onto where they should land or you suggest they land. And that would be a good one.
What about smoke jockey?
Yeah, smoke is great.
Carry smoke in the car, just in case it's...
Smoke is brilliant. We always use smoke as you pop the smoke as they're coming over. When you hear them or they crackle into life on a radio, as soon as you see them, you pop the smoke. And what you're doing is don't shoot too quick. So they're coming, and then just as they get there, but they sort of have an idea of the wind anyway, and their blades are going around at a few hundred miles an hour, and they can deal with it. In fact, sometimes they prefer coming in tail first. Depends on their exit point. A helicopter always has to look at an exit. What's my exit? If anything goes wrong, I'm there. And that's the way they'll back in or fly in. So that's down to them. But going towards one, only go towards one when you're instructed by the helicopter pilot or the crew, and they'll tell you exactly what to do very clearly. Okay? And they might want you to come in to chat to them, or they might need a hand with a stretcher or whatever. But don't race in and be very, very cautious of blade flail. So the blade does that as it changes speed and pitch. So it drops down. So if you're going towards them, even if you've got the height, it drops on you. And then you become a boiled egg. So, happy with that? So don't run in towards the helicopter. Just, there you go, holding the smoke up, let them land. Either shut down or just all you're doing is just staying right down, locking everything down, waiting for them, looking at the pilot, and as soon as he signals to you, do whatever they say, basically. And the important thing is the handover. And this is really quite critical because they haven't got much time, or teams haven't got much time. And you're doing what's called a handover. We have different acronyms, but the paramedic, so he's going to come down on a winch, and he's the winchman. We have CAS cards, so we fill out when he had his morphine, what time it was, and it's a card that it's really noisy. As long as everything's ready, he's just going to clip in and go. So he takes the CAS card and he'll read it in the helicopter on the way up. But a very quick word in his ear, and you just think about exactly the same as journalism. It's that lift door shutting. What do they need to know? You know, he's unconscious, he's had this, he's done a head injury, spinal injury, he needs to know, bang, thank you. And that will elevate them to a higher level. If you just say, it's a wrist, I think, and, that's it, he's gone to a lower level now. So you go for the highest first, the most serious first. So it's obviously life-threatening, disabilities, etc., and you focus on that, and then let the paramedic deal with the rest. Okay, and normally what will happen is they'll be listening still, but they'll be dealing with the casualty. So it's, and the first thing you want to do is, hi there, this is Beefy. He's taken a fall from height. He's got suspected spinal injury. He's good observation, hasn't lost consciousness. And whilst you're saying this, he's actually looking at Beefy, looking at his eyes, looking at his breathing, looking at his pulse. He's doing all that and listening to you. And then say, hi Beefy. So he's going to ask exactly the same questions you just did. And off it goes again. But if the handover is good and they know you're good, then they'll be done. It'll be swiftly done and executed, and the guy's going to go away quicker.
Jockey, you mentioned beacons.
Yes, beacons.
I'm just saying.
Sorry, yeah.
A few minutes, a couple of minutes.
Okay. These beacons, Steve. They're brilliant. And there's all sorts of beacons you can use. We use spots because we take trips to Colombia, India, places where Delorme aren't always good because there's different ways of communicating through satellites, through phone systems, etc., etc. So you have to do your research and listen to the people that use them, not to the people that sell them necessarily, and say, well, this works for me, this doesn't. They're robust, pretty basic, robust, and that's what we want because we're simple. And we give every one of those to a client, and they just clip it on. All they have to do is turn it on, and they get tracked. Okay, and they have to track it. They're useless if you don't track it, because if you hit the deck and you're unconscious, you can't press the emergency button. So get used to tracking. It's part of your pre-flight checks. You turn it on, and you press the track button, and the little light flashes, and off you go and have a good day. Forget it. And that's the best way of operating them. Same with the Delorme, same with anything else. With other systems, you've got Telegram, you've got Track 24, you've got all sorts of stuff. But think about your environment where you're flying. No point taking that to the Himalayas. Won't work. So you have to think of, where am I going? What's my environment? What's my best? And you always say to yourself, what happened if? What happened if? Right now, what happened if? And that's what we say with our guides. What happened if? What would you do? Who would you call? What resource would you use? Now. Well, so we always, in a remote environment, for example, we would have to have a man on the ground. So that we go to him. He's the fixer. And everyone has his mobile number. Crooked guy on the ground that fixes everything. He's the man. And that's the way it works if you want things done quickly. So this is great in Europe.
Spot trackers wouldn't work in the Himalaya.
Spots? Yeah, they do. They use satellites.
If you set Spot Tracker off, does that automatically activate?
Okay, all right. Yeah, this is very poignant. I'll finish on Baz, shall I?
Yeah, finish on Baz.
He's being very stern. His body language is getting more and more. Okay, I got 2 minutes. So Baz's example was brilliant for Spot. Okay, Baz, who initiated all this and got every pilot together. It's his enthusiasm and passion for the sport that got us here. And now he's in a hospital in Delhi, unfortunately. But at least we're all together learning from this incident. And Baz's incident is brilliant because he was flying with a group of friends. He took a spot and he activated the spot. So he had a bad head injury, broken ribs. He's on what we call big face, big remote mountain, and had an incident. So he presses a spot. Now what happens then is spot have a few numbers. You program them in. So you have the primary number, secondary, third. And the spot will phone up the primary, secondary, third to say, is this genuine? You've given it to your kids or something? You go, no, that's genuine. Okay? And then bang, all resources are fired. If no one answers the phones, they'll take that as a genuine. Okay? So that's, I'm guessing, I don't know, what happened with Baz. So he pressed his button and they got the call. They'd have phoned the emergency numbers. Either they were activated by his wife or whoever's the person was coordinator or the primary number, and resources were piled. But the problem with Baz, without knowing the incident entirely, I was there, but we were flying along the ridge 50 k's away, it's the time of day, because if it starts to get late, then helicopter pilot, they're all sitting in the helicopter thing, and a spotter saying, right, go to him now. Yeah, where is he exactly? He's there. Okay, well, by the time we get a helicopter up there, it's going to be night time. We can't do it. It's got to go into the next day now. So that's the trouble. And in a remote location like that, even if you can see the mountain, it's going to take you 8 hours to get up there, at least. So that's the next day anyway. So, it's all about resources and time. And the helicopter got there. The very nice pilot landed with him and escorted him off. And helped him with his first aid and everything. And the pair of them were taken to Dharamsala first and then to Delhi, where he's had some operations on his head. I think he's getting a plate put in. But I hope he's going to make a full recovery. I'm told he is, but I'm not going to give you false information. We just get the facts when the facts come, not when the gossip comes. But that's a great example of how a spot works. Now, had he been unconscious and wasn't able to press his spot, he wouldn't have been found because the spot wasn't tracking.
It wasn't tracking?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
But if he doesn't press track every 5 minutes, track, then suddenly nothing. Now, if you're pressing track and suddenly nothing, he's obviously somewhere around there. Okay? So don't think, oh, that's the red button, because Kirsty in Colombia, she broke her back flying from Great Britain. She couldn't reach her spot. She was clawing at it to try and get it to activate it. So have it somewhere you can use it and also make sure you can see it. We tell our clients to make sure they have them up here so they're there and they can see the little green light flashing every so often, and it's all quite nice. There's no point having it in the back. Okay. Same with Delorme's. They're a bit more, you can text each other, I'm okay, you can send messages. But you can send messages with spots because you can program those buttons to say different things. So I would say, definitely use tracking, definitely. Even in England, anywhere. You have to spend you know, £100 a year on this. Don't know, depends on what your flying is. But make sure whatever you're using, you're familiar with it. The people that you're going to give the message to are familiar with it, because they, you know, suddenly there's a call comes in. Well, I don't know. You know, make sure you rehearse it. What would happen if? And that's the key. And that way you can really get an idea of where people are and keep the system simple. All right. But yes, that's your beacon question answered, Steve. Any questions? Good, we're not allowed any. Thank you very much.